All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the show. We got a great guest for you today. She is a cancer fighter. I should say cancer warrior because she is awesome fighting through cancer, trying to do workouts, CrossFit.
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows.
You gotta keep moving. Let's keep moving. Let's go. Don't quit till you got nothing left.
You can either live your dreams or live your fears.
Because you'll have bad times, but that'll always wake you up to the good stuff you weren't paying attention to.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
From the Cancer Sucks Studios, you just tuned in to Life Lessons and Cancer Hope with Coach Steve. Listen, cancer ain't got nothing on me. Introducing an outstanding podcast where we discuss relatable life lessons, ambition, motivation, and perseverance. Welcome back to another episode. And we're going to get into her story now. So Sara Ewing is her name, and she's with us right now. So thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out and having me on. I'm happy to spread awareness and share my story and journey through this process so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, we want to share that positivity and trying to stay as active as you can during chemo treatments. We've all been there. We've both been there. I mean, for those that haven't listened to my other podcasts, I'm currently fighting stage 4 colon cancer myself. But go ahead and check out the other podcasts on our platform. And so let's get started here. So, tell me a little bit about your life before cancer, and before any symptoms, because every cancer patient has their own story of how they ended up getting diagnosed. A lot of them have obviously some kind of symptoms before it starts, whether it's pain or anything else, and any type of cancer, right? That brought them to that diagnosis, unless they happen to go to the hospital. I mean, there's a few times, you go to the hospital for something completely else, and then for a different scan, maybe a pneumonia scan, things like that. And then you see something, for those that listen to my other podcasts, you guys know I'm a registered nurse for 24 years with ER experience, things like that. So, that for the most part, you kind of go see your doctor. So anyway, Sara, so yeah, let's do that. Tell us about, maybe about a 6-month time frame before the symptoms started. Tell me
Okay.
about.
Yeah, so I am a teacher here in Florida. So I work with students with special needs. So I don't really sit a lot. I'm kind of up and around throughout the day working with students. I have 2 kids of my own. They are 10 going on 11. So we just had 5th grade graduation and getting ready for middle school. I have an amazing husband who he's an attorney. And, thankfully, when this whole thing has started, because of the pandemic, he's been home working. So that's been, a blessing in disguise that he's been able to be home with me through all this. So really, I mean, before I started noticing anything, it was kind of when the pandemic started, about Marchish. We're all having to go home. It hit spring break came, and then we never went back to school.
Yeah.
So I was sitting a lot in front of my laptop trying to teach students from a screen, and my body did not like that. I didn't like sitting for so many hours out of the day because I'm not used to that. Before all that, I mean, I'm super active. At this point, my running is not like it was. Was an avid runner. Did half marathons, 5Ks, 10Ks, 15Ks.
Wow. Awesome.
That was my big thing that I really loved. Played volleyball from junior high through high school. So in and out of weight rooms. My family, we just were always an active family. So just kind of came from that background. Thankfully, has played into everything I do now, and then it instilled it into my children. And
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
so
Yeah.
that's kind of my hobby, has always been just some form of exercise, whether it's running, being at the gym, lifting, playing a sport of some kind. My diet was always kind of, never like horrible, but I'm not like super clean eater and things like that, but I try my best. The past
Sure.
2.5, 3 years, I really started focusing on my macros and tracking that, especially because I had started CrossFit, and that was kind of the thing that everybody did. And I noticed a massive difference in just my body fat percentage and my muscle and just things like that. So thankfully, I was very in tune with my body because once I started noticing some things for having to work from home, um, that really kind of played a part into why I started going to my doctor and trying to figure out what was going on with my
Sure.
stomach and,
Yeah,
um,
and I'm just gonna pause right there. So,
yeah,
yeah, before we get into that, how long have you been doing CrossFit now?
about 3 years.
3 years,
It's
yeah.
actually, we
And
have
what
like a
got you
little,
into it?
well, we have a home gym set up in our garage. And so my husband, for
Nice.
a lot longer than I have, has been doing it in the garage. My daughter, Sophia, who that's her thing is CrossFit. She competes. We kind of
That's
travel
so
around
cool.
Florida for competitions. She got into it. So she's been doing it longer than I have. And she's at this point probably stronger than I am in a lot of lifts. So
Oh,
it is what it is. Um, so that's how we kind of got started with all the CrossFit stuff, was started in our gym here at the house and
I
then
see.
parlayed with my child. And then I started, and then we have my son, he comes and goes with the CrossFit thing, but his thing's hockey. So it's either we're at the rink or we're at the gym, one or the other.
Ah, yeah. But, it sounds like you're staying active too, doing the hockey, so that's good.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh,
So it
for
looks
sure.
like you got a very active, physical of, fitness or sports, family there. So that's great. And getting the kids included in that, it's so important
Yeah.
these days.
Oh, definitely important, because when you see a lot of kids now, it's sitting in front of screens, whether it's a tablet, a computer,
I know.
especially with all the e-learning we had to do. I- Then it's going to the PlayStation or the Xbox. And so, we really try to limit that screen time here and there, especially in the summer. We're a little bit more lenient, but it's like, no, go outside and play, do something in the garage, whether it's with the weights or something, or with hockey or whatever it is. So
Wow.
definitely important to be active.
And what would you say is your favorite, CrossFit movement? Like something or one or two, like
I
you
think
like.
my
Oh,
favorite lift would probably be like a power clean and then squat cleans. I like those.
cool.
So I miss being able to go heavy just because of where my port sits.
Sure.
So normally I tuck a towel in there as like a little barrier when I'm wanting to go a little
Oh, that's a
heavier
good idea.
than, yeah. Yeah, it kind of helps give that buffer. So when I have to kind of rack it there in the front rack, I don't worry that it's hitting this too hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably my favorite.
Oh, that's so cool. All right. So then, talk about the start of your symptoms, but the like the month and the year, so we can get that out to the audience.
Yeah, so it was probably June to beginning of July 2020 is when I just started noticing bowel changes, um, just some like discomfort, bloatiness feeling, which, and as a woman, I mean, when it's your time of the month, that's, you're used to that kind of feeling. Um, but it wasn't normal for me. So of course, Google things, which is you really should never do because you're always dying of something when you Google it. So I'm
Yeah.
reading
Yeah.
I know. So I'm reading and I'm like, I could tick off everything on the list for IBS. I'm like, okay, never had that problem, but with the state of education right now, and are we e-learning or we're going back to school? Are we, like, all the unknowns? I figured, okay, I must just be internalizing it this way. And maybe that's what it is. It's just stress related. So I went to my doctor, talked to her, and she was like, "Well, that sounds like it could be really what it is because I've never had any issues before." She's like, "So just take some Miralax. That'll might help kind of move some things around." And so I'm like, "Okay, do that." It helped, but I never felt like I was emptying out, or that bloatiness feeling wouldn't go away. And I'm just like, that it's not normal. Like, I don't know why this is continuing to stay. So I never had pain. I just had that discomfort of that bloaty feeling where you're just like, ugh, like I ate too much.
Yeah.
I can't get it out. And just, ugh.
How long
So
were you on that before you had to go back to the doctor?
I think I waited 2 weeks. I gave it
Okay.
like 2 weeks, and then I
Just
called and I
yeah.
said, listen, it's not the
It's not
Miralax. Like, it's something else. Like, this is not normal. I know
yeah.
my body. So I went back in and we talked. And then she was like, are you noticing any blood in your stool or anything like that? And I'm like, every once in a while, I see a little bit of streaking on the outside. I said, but nothing where I'm wiping. I'm like, oh my God, and things like that. So she, of course, was like, no. And I said, I would like to get a colonoscopy because I want to know what's going on. And she was like, if you're seeing any form of blood, then yes, let's get you into a GI doctor. Let's see what's going on. Because I said, I could have hemorrhoids. I could have this, things that I can't see because I'm straining to go to the bathroom. So, all the unknowns. So I finally get a hold of a GI doctor, but because of COVID, they're so backed up from having to cancel so many
Of
appointments. It
course.
took me about 5 weeks to get into the GI doctor to just
Ugh.
even have the conversation of, here's what I got going on. Where, like, what do you think? So I finally get in, and that was mid-October. And, he kind of felt the same way I did. He's like, you've never had issues before. All the stress of, are you going back to school? Okay, now you're going back to school, but what does that look like? Are you going to be hybrid teaching? Are you going to be, so he's like, it sounds like it's just stress related. And he wasn't necessarily in a rush to do the colonoscopy, but I said, well, I'm going to schedule as soon as possible because I don't like how I feel. I'm uncomfortable. I need to know what's going on with my body because it's hindering my workouts. It's normally when I feel kind of funky, like going to the gym helps kind of move things around and then I feel good afterwards. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not happening anymore. So I don't think it's IBS or I don't know. I didn't know.
And can we
So,
share the audience how old you are, just
oh yeah, I'm
so we
39.
know?
Yeah,
39, yeah.
39.
And just so for those out there, they decreased that colonoscopy screening age to 45. It's just not young
Yeah.
enough. So anybody out there listening to this, if you've got any kind of family history, even grandparents or anything going
Yeah.
on, you can advocate. You can get it sooner. Just get it done.
Yeah.
You
I
know.
tell everybody, I push at this
Yeah.
point, having gone what I've gone through, like if you've had a family member or if something just doesn't feel right, you have to push for it with your doctor. There's
Yeah.
nothing
100%.
else. I mean, sadly, you have to push for it. So yeah, I got into the GI doctor. We talked. I went ahead and scheduled the colonoscopy literally probably 4 days after we had met. Went in that Monday, had the colonoscopy, came to, which never had one. So I don't really know how it worked until, I'm going through the process. So they're like, okay, we're just going to wait for your husband to come pick you up because they had all the COVID protocols in place. So he couldn't come in and
Yeah.
he went, our place was close by. So he just went home and then came back. But I kept seeing everybody that had gone in when I went in already leaving. And I'm like, why am I still sitting here? It goes
Uh-oh.
now, like I could put things together knowing, and I'm going, ugh. So he finally came in, and he's standing there. And then, they were like, we couldn't even do the full colonoscopy because they ended up finding a 5 centimeter tumor in my rectum and he couldn't even get
Wow.
past it with the scope. So they did they took a biopsy of it, sent that off. So then I had to wait a couple days, got the biopsy results in that Friday and found out that it was cancer.
So that
And
was what was the date of that? So so we kind of know the timeline.
that was
Or not. I mean, you don't have to know
it
exactly, but
was I believe like the 23rd of October, give or take,
okay. So this is October
of
20.
2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So got the confirmation that it was cancer. And then after that, like the next 2 weeks were kind of like a whirlwind of appointments with a bajillion different people. And so, they're like, if you want to get a hold of your surgeon, and I'm going, I don't have a surgeon. I've never
Yeah.
had
In your
any
back
problems
pocket, you
with
got
my
his phone number.
body. Like
I mean, come on.
I guess there's some families that have their family surgeon apparently. So
Wow.
we're like, okay, well, let's figure out who we go to. So, thankfully we have amazing support group of people. And on my son's hockey team, there's a few doctors, surgeons. So we reached out to one of them and he gave us some recommendations of some people he knew. And it ended up being a small world of one of the guys at my gym. He goes at the 5 a.m. class, and I completely forgot, but he's a GI doctor. And
Wow.
he ended up getting into, like, we got in touch with each other. And then that's how I ended up with the surgeon that I'm with, was through him, which was
Nice.
such a blessing in disguise. Cause I'm like, I don't want just anybody. I want someone that knows somebody that can tell me like, yes, this person's
Yeah.
good, So, Friday found out I had cancer. Monday I was in with the surgeon talking to her, and she literally had my 2 weeks mapped out, scheduled all my appointments for my CT scan, MRI, port placement, you name it, everything was scheduled. And I'm going, well, what do I need a port for? I don't, if it's, like I didn't know. And
Right.
so met with her and then had the MRI. And then
Oh,
the
okay.
next day or two, I think there was a day in between, then had the CT scan. And then that's when we had confirmation that it was stage 4, that it had spread through the lymph nodes in my pelvic area to 2 spots on my liver.
Oh, so that was your first CAT scan. That
Yeah.
was probably by then, that was beginning of November
It was the second to last
or
week of
last week of
October.
October, because the
Yeah.
23rd you got the
Yep.
biopsy results. Okay.
Yeah.
And
So
many PET scans too, or
I've had no PET scans. We've
no
just
PET
done
scans?
CT
Okay.
scans and an MRI
Okay.
at this point. So once we had confirmation that it had spread, she said, this
Sure.
is why I went ahead and scheduled you for a port placement. We're going to go ahead and do a liver biopsy to know exactly what kind of cancer is in the liver, to know, what we're going to do with it. They put, the markers in there. And so that was a whole nother surgery. But in between the CT scan and the port placement, I had another colonoscopy with her so that she could go in herself, because she's ultimately, eventually, possibly going to be the one that will be removing the
Sure.
primary tumor. So she wanted to go in and put her own marker in there, take her own biopsy of it as well, but also just see it with her own eyes. So she did that. And she had the same problem where with the adult scope, she could not get around it. So she ended up using the
Yeah.
pediatric scope and was able to get
Wow.
around.
That's amazing.
And a pediatric scope is meant for a tiny little kid. So she
Right.
could only go so far into my
So
colon,
far.
but what they
Yeah.
could see, my colon was fine at that point. So for me,
Past
it's
it.
just in the rectum and then
Oh, good.
through the lymph nodes to
Not
the
good.
liver.
Right.
So yeah, those 2 weeks I felt like
Nerve
I
wracking, right?
well, yeah, I felt like I was in this alternate world, and Charlie Brown's mom just kept talking, and I just heard like rah, 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 and I just went through the motions, showed up to the appointments, put the IV in. What do you need me to wear? Whatever. So once we got through those 2 weeks, the port was in. It was kind of like a surreal moment of like, okay, I have cancer, and this is my life now. Like, this is what I'm going to be doing and dealing with for who knows how long. And so that's kind of
Yeah.
my story through that part
Yeah.
of.
Let me ask you that then. So you think that that's when things kind of, your cancer, like, wow, I have cancer. Is that when it finally hit in then? Clicked in your head finally,
Yeah.
like reality and not denial is when they put in the port?
Yeah, because once it's there, like, it's there. It's not going anywhere, and
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
the first week or 2 trying to, sleep with it, it was like, "I can't now, that feels weird. Nope, I guess I'm just laying on my back and that's gonna be it because it was still a little tender and just so yeah, this was and then, everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, like, does that hurt? Does it feel weird?"
Yeah.
And,
Right.
after a while, I'm like, "No," and if I move it around, I have a few friends that are like, "Oh my god, don't do that, don't do that."
Right.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, "No, it's in there, it's not going anywhere."
Yeah, yeah, I got one too right here. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but what, so before that, before you had the Metaport, you and your husband, what kind of, you know, gosh, stress or mental things, what was going through you guys' heads?
Um, it was just like, "How is this possible?" Everyone was like, "How do you have cancer? You were the healthiest person I know," or
Right.
"You're always at the gym," like this, that, the other. And I just was like, well, apparently cancer doesn't discriminate. You could be in the best shape of your life, which I was in, and I have stage 4 cancer. Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
my husband's family, his dad had passed away when he was 17 from multiple myeloma. So he has gone through this whole process before with his dad. So
Mm.
I think for him was a very like, I have to go through this again kind of moment.
Oh,
So
yeah.
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 I mean, thankfully, I have been very healthy through this whole process, and we haven't had to have a lot of the sickness things that I know his dad had and went through leading up to it. And so
Yeah,
at
for
least I think this
caregivers,
is more.
that's hard to
Oh,
see it, you know?
oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But I mean, thankfully, so far my journey's been very positive and good. I mean, I guess for a cancer patient.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think that helps him be at ease with everything, knowing I'm not in pain. I'm doing pretty much what I'd be doing without cancer for the most part, besides having to take medical leave from work because of COVID, really.
yeah.
Um, so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely give yourself credit. I mean, you're a strong person, it's not like it's nothing. So you're continuing to stay strong through your workouts and through all this stuff. And, d- you know, y- we'll get into a little bit later, perception of how, people, look at us as, having cancer and still working out and looking good. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But, okay. So you had your port and, talk about the timeline when you had, so how soon after the port was placed that you started your first chemo treatment, and when, if you can tell the audience when that was.
Yeah, so I had the port placed and then probably I want to say it was very beginning of November, so it was barely a week time span between having that put in and
Fast.
starting.
Yeah.
They didn't want to wait just because it's metastasized and they don't want it to spread anywhere else. Um, so the plan after talking with my surgeon and having everything put in, knowing that it spread and knowing how large the rectal tumor was and that I was having issues with the bathroom because I had maybe that much space to actually go to the bathroom, and that would be why my stomach and everything was so uncomfortable.
Yeah, and
um
for those listening to because there's going to be some, listeners, that aren't going to tune into the, YouTube, podcast, but definitely, we encourage, definitely check out the YouTube channel. But for those other ones that are on the other podcast, we're probably, what do you think, size of a nickel that you were holding up your hand there?
Maybe a
Maybe
dime,
smaller, a
like
dime. Okay,
it
okay. So
was
just so you guys know,
very
yeah,
small
yeah,
space
very
for
small.
me to try to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So at that point, she kind of asked me to go on a soft, low fiber diet, which is no fun. That's like mashed potato. I mean, I love eating mashed potatoes, but when you can
Yeah.
only eat certain things and it all needs to be soft and trying to get into proteins and things, it was hard. And then, my stomach just felt so bloated and full as it was that I wasn't eating a whole lot either. I could eat a couple bites and then I'm like, I can't eat anymore right now. So it's like every 20 minutes or so, I would take some more, eat a few more bites of something. So that was no fun. Um, so yeah, when talking with her, she went through the pros and cons of like my options. And, she said, we can make this a little easier if you want to go ahead and get a colostomy. And then we don't have to worry about you getting backed up, any blockages. You'll be able to go to the bathroom. And I was like, well, that just sounds so much more permanent than I know it should be because I haven't even started the process yet. And then she talked about, or we'll talk with Dr. Fink, who's my oncologist, on his opinions of starting radiation and chemo because radiation can help shrink the tumor with low dose chemo, with the
Okay.
hopes
Yeah.
that it would shrink and then I could just continue to use the bathroom normal. So, we left that appointment like, okay, I don't know what to do. I've never been in this position. Like, what is the best suggestion? So then we met with our oncologist and he went over, because they all talk as a team, my radiology oncologist, him, and then my surgeon. So he said, I talked with everybody and I'm going to give you my 2 cents on you could do the colostomy. He's like, I don't feel it's something you should do right now. He goes, I feel like the radiation and the low dose 5FU chemo will do what we need it to do.
Oh, good.
And so we went back and forth, and my husband just ultimately was like, okay, so if this was your wife or your daughter, your sister, what would you say? What would
Yeah,
you
it's a
do?
great question. Yeah, to
And
them.
he said, honestly, I would avoid the surgery. I would try this first. He goes, it's 3 weeks. Within a week or two, Sarah will know how she feels. And if she doesn't feel like it's helping or worse or whatever, then we go and do surgery. He's like, so So knowing he kind of sided with that and how that went, we just decided that let's try the radiation and the low dose chemo. So that was the beginning of November. We did 3 weeks. So it was 15 rounds of radiation just directed at the pelvic area. So it would hit the primary tumor. And we, alongside that, did the 5FU, but a low dose. So they had accessed my port. I'd wear the box home all week with it. And then, so we did that for 3 weeks. And by the end of that period, I could tell that I could use the bathroom a lot easier based on the
Yeah,
size.
that's
You know,
awesome.
I was like, I
Yeah,
never thought I'd
great
have to talk
sign.
about my poop as much as I've had in the past so many months, telling the size of it and all the things.
Sure.
So thankfully, we went that route because I would like to avoid as many surgeries as we can. And so far,
Absolutely.
like that had worked. So that was the
All right.
beginning of treatment.
And what did you have any effects from the radiation?
I would get, I never had any skin issues,
Okay.
thankfully. And
Yeah,
because
it's good.
where they were targeting, I mean, for those that don't know, I mean, when you get radiation, it's literally like an x-ray. You're just laying on a table and they just shoot. I had 3 spots, 2 on the sides and then like one directly at my pelvic area. And it's literally, I was on the table for like not even 5 minutes and it's like buzz, buzz,
Oh,
buzz, and then
that's
you
good.
get
It's
off.
fast. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was really fast. And they kind of like they make a mold for wherever, you're getting your radiation. So my legs had like this mold they would sit in, and then I had these X's on my body that just stayed on for those 3 weeks. So they knew exactly where to hit it.
Ah, yeah.
And I mean, so no skin issues, thankfully.
Yeah.
No irritation, anything like that. The only thing would be in the evenings, like after, I would just kind of have like a throbby like feeling, not even pain, but just almost like an annoying throbbing feeling in my pelvic, hip, not hip, thigh, like inner thigh area and like the
Okay.
backs of my legs.
Okay.
And part of that was when I, look back at once I knew what I had, when I had started to do e-learning, I started getting this like my sciatic. I mean, it was my sciatic. It's like a weird feeling, and I'm like, I don't. I must have done something in the garage. I don't remember doing it, like hurting myself or pulling something, working out. So I didn't really know. Went to my chiropractor. He would do some things because I always have tight hip flexors and stuff. So did all that, and it would help a little bit, but it never really went away.
Hmm.
And then as it got closer to when I found out that I have cancer, it started to go through like my IT band to the back, only on my right side of my leg. So once we found out that the tumor, this, that, the other, we assumed that the tumor was pushing on like my sciatic IT area, like
Ah,
something, a nerve somewhere right around there, which I'm
sure.
like, that makes sense
Yeah, it
because
makes
I know I
sense.
didn't do anything
Absolutely.
in the gym. So, um, that feeling that I had would get worse, but then it's one of those where it's like it had to get worse before it got better kind of thing. Because then
Hmm.
all of a
Yeah,
sudden, after 3 weeks, it was gone. So that also was
that's
an
great.
indication that I knew the tumor had shrunk because now it's not pushing on that nerve anymore. That feeling was completely gone. And I knew the moment I could sit back on my rower and do a few pulls and I didn't feel anything, I was like, okay, this is working. I can actually sit on the rower and not feel the tumor pushing because
Wow.
I could, once they aggravated it enough, with the biopsies and all the lovely
Yeah.
checks with fingers and this and that, I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't even sit in the car normal. I'd have to like sit on my side and prop my leg up a little bit. And then 3 weeks after the radiation and stuff, I was like, oh my God, I can sit in the car normal.
Wow. What did they happen to say what size the tumors were or
I
the
believe it
one
was
or
like a
more?
5 centimeter.
5 centimeter. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a good size.
Yeah.
So wow.
So radiation, all
So
that worked, thankfully.
and so you've undergone now so this is October or no, this is
That's
November you
through
started chemo.
November. Yep. Started beginning of November, went all the way through
Yep.
November and then about the beginning of December is when I started the full Fox treatment.
Oh, okay. So they decided to go aggressive after the 5FU and the radiation, and
Yeah,
that was in December.
they wanted to go slow up front to just shrink the tumor.
I see.
Once we did
Yeah.
those 3 weeks, we did a CT scan, and amazingly, when the results came back, everything reacted and shrunk to
Yeah.
the low dose chemo, which my oncologist was kind of shocked. He's like, I did the 5FU at the low dose mainly just so that nothing would spread,
Yeah.
and just kind of contain it where it was at. But everything ended up reacting to it, which was amazing. So things were
Wow. So then the full fox, you're thinking, wow, you got to think like, wow, then that means the full fox really got at it.
yeah.
So
So
you were on a oxaliplatin 5FU for that full fox,
when we started,
leucovorin,
yeah, yep,
and what else? Were you on Avastin too?
no. So when we started the full fox, we did the first 5 rounds because then we did a scan after the first 5. The first 3 rounds was the
I see.
oxaliplatin, leucovorin. Um, what's the other one?
5FU
5FU.
and no irinotecan?
And then we did just the 3 with those 3
Just the
meds
three.
plus the pre-meds and the steroid.
Okay.
Um, the last 2 of those 5, he added the Vectibix because once we got back
Ah,
the genetic testing on the tumors in the liver, he found that Vectibix or Avastin it's sensitive to. He chose to not do the Avastin because Avastin can cause perforations, and because of where my tumor is in my rectum and stuff, he didn't want to have
oh, makes sense.
any
Yeah.
possible bleeding or anything going on. And I'm like, yeah, I would really like to avoid that too.
Yeah.
So we opted with the Vectibix, and the Vectibix is more just to target the cancer in the liver. So after those first 5 rounds, we did another CT scan, and everything shrunk significantly. Like the spots in the liver shrunk almost 80% from the last
Wow.
scan.
And what month was this now?
This would have been February because we started
February.
December, and it's every
Yeah.
other week.
It's great.
So that pulled us into February. So we had almost 80% shrinkage from the last scan in the liver.
Amazing.
My lymph nodes were all back to radiological sizes. Doesn't
Wow.
necessarily mean that all the cancer is gone from them, but
Right.
they're all going back
Still
down
good.
to the size that they should be.
Sure.
And then my primary tumor, the way they measure it is like the thickening into the wall of the rectum.
Hmm.
So it's thinned, but there's still some thickening like in the lining, but it's thinning, that's how they measure it with the CT scan for where it's placed.
Okay.
So that was amazing. And he like again, he was like shocked because thankfully I have very minimal side effects. My body has tolerated all the treatment very well. I have minimal fatigue for the most part. I mean, I'm a napper.
Wow. Even with the oxaliplatin?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I
God bless.
that's what I know. I would have such guilt, and he's like, "No, don't feel
No, no,
guilty. Your
no.
body is
Everybody's
just,"
different.
but I would feel, when you're in that treatment room and you're seeing some people, and I'm just like, "Oh gosh, I
I
feel bad because
know.
I don't feel this way," and
Yeah.
you're seeing that. But yeah, the oxyplatin, the side effects, of course, the cold sensitivity,
Sure.
which was so weird. How you go from you can drink cold to now it feels like glass going down my throat.
Oh, it's horrible.
Oh, it's the worst. And the hair loss, I had, thankfully started with a lot of thick hair. So
Mhm.
still have hair, but it's very thin. Um, and the Vectibix causes really dry skin.
Yeah.
So that's whatever. I mean, if that's what I have to deal with, that's the least I can't complain. So I live with like Vaseline and Aquaphor and a bajillion other things all over me to keep hydrated.
Yeah. Now
Um,
you tell the audience where you live.
I'm in Florida. I live in Tampa,
Oh,
Florida.
okay.
So when you're
Yeah. So how do you deal with the sun and all that?
yeah, that's the other fun thing. I will allow myself to be in the sun a little bit because if I'm out too long, I get like the red rashiness from all the
Yeah.
meds. And sometimes they almost look like if you live here in Florida, when you get bit by a red ant, and then like the next day it almost looks like a little pimply thing. I'll get
Hmm.
those sometimes. And I think it's just because I've been out in the sun too long. But I live in hats, um, long sleeve swim shirts if I'm, when I go to the pool or I'm in the shade a lot. So that's kind of a hard thing when you live here, trying to definitely
Yeah.
stay out of the sun. And then the last round of, or no, it was the 11th round of the full fox was my last time with the oxyplatin. That's when the neuropathy kind of kicked in. And I'd have it like here and there in the beginning, but I'd have it for like a day and I'd feel funky and then it would just go away and that was it. But the 11th round, like it stayed and it's continued to stay, but I can tell it's like slowly going away in my hands and
Sure.
feet.
Mm.
But I did not like that feeling. And so the 12th round, his plan was to just take me off of it anyways, because they were surprised that I tolerated it that long in general. So I
Yeah.
was very glad to get off of the oxyplatin at this. So at this point, we had a scan about a week and a half ago, and everything came back great.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So this is recently that you just probably finished your 12th round
I
then?
just finished my 12th round May
Okay.
17th ish, like that week before, because then we had the
Yeah.
scan May 17th. And when the results came back, nothing, no new lesions, nothing has, which I've never had anything spread. Everything stayed where it's been. So that's continuing. No new lesions, no spreading of anything. Nothing shrunk this time. But if he said, if it did, it's too hard to read, when they're doing the measurements on
Yeah.
this. So, and at this point with the liver, he said there's a possibility that what we're seeing could just be dead tissue and it
Yeah.
could just be dead. Lymph nodes, everything's fine. My primary tumors there's still some thickening in the wall, but again, I, he's, they are, he's like, I can't, this is what we want. So at this point, I'm now on what they call maintenance chemo, even though it's the same stuff I've been on, same, but we're just going to pretty much monitor everything and see
Sure.
if anything's changing, um, things like that. So I'll stay on the leucovorin, the Vectibix, and the 5-FU.
Yeah.
So I just actually finished treatment Wednesday. And so now I get to recover till June 7th and start back up again.
And that's your 13th, right? June.
That
That's
would
your next
be,
one. Or
yeah, I mean, I guess if want to count from November, this is like 17, 18.
17,
Like if
18.
you count
Okay.
the low dose chemo and stuff
Oh,
like that.
sure.
But
Count it.
yeah. Yep.
Absolutely. I mean, you were
Yeah,
on
so
the
this would
5
be
FU.
like 16,
I
17.
definitely count it. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's aggressive. That's a lot. Um, so yeah, I've only gone through, I think 19, but that's a little over a year. And I think you started in October and it's May,
Yep. I've done a lot
So
in a
yeah,
short time span, it
short amount
feels
of
like.
time. Yeah.
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 Like I
Wow.
said, I
Or-
praise God and everything else that I mean, I got connected Monday, took a nap, went to the gym, worked out, came home, worked out Tuesday, got disconnected Wednesday, yesterday, went to the gym. So, I mean, I thankfully am able to do that. And that's
yeah.
the gym's my therapy. That's
That's
what it,
awesome. And I was going to ask you how, we'll get into, staying mentally strong, but physically strong. Did it, like in the beginning, how did you, like, were there days that you weren't really feeling up to working out, but you did it anyway? Or how did that feel not being able to get to the gym on days that you really wanted to because you were sick?
yeah. I luck out that we have stuff in our garage. So if I
Yeah.
don't feel up to going to the gym, I can at least go in the garage and do something.
Do something. Yeah.
In the very beginning, I stopped working out once we started everything in October to probably through December for the most part.
Oh, yeah. So
About
good
2
3 months, right?
months-ish,
2 months.
I really
Yeah.
didn't because I just, I'm not sleeping good because you don't
Right.
sleep. Um,
Right.
and just going up and down the stairs, I would get to like the first landing and I'm like, oh my God, I am out of breath. This is pathetic. Like,
Oh,
what
yeah.
is going on? And
Oh
that
yeah.
was a struggle for me because I'm naturally a competitive person. And even with my own self, I'm very, I just, that's just how I am. So just knowing the simplest things of walking up the stairs puts me out of breath. I was so frustrated with it. I just annoyed me. I'm like, oh, I just want to be able to work out again and build my endurance
Yeah,
back up.
I'm the
And
same way. I got that itch, even though you're physically, like you said, you got to stop halfway up the stairs, or I take a shower and I'd have to freaking lay down for 2 hours because
yeah,
you get so deconditioned. But in your mind, you're like, oh man, I just want to go grab that barbell and get in the gym.
yeah, yeah. So those first 2 months, like
So
when once we knew everything, and that was rough on me being able to really try to work out because at that point it was just eating because I had the dumbest diet of soft, low fiber foods to make sure everything's moving. So I'm
yeah,
not, I
yeah,
mean, I was barely getting calories in. I lost, because of that, I lost like 12 to 15 pounds just because I wasn't eating. Like when I'm doing my macros and I'm going to the gym like I was eating over 2,000 calories a day. So I knew I was barely hitting 1,000 calories. I'm going, there's no way I
yeah.
could even try to go do something in the gym. Like that wouldn't even be smart. So my main focus those 2 months were just getting calories in and going to the bathroom pretty much because it was just don't get backed up and
Right.
eat food. Once we got through that and we were in the safe zone of bathroom usage was good, I could tell I could eat a little better and start eating more normal foods. And then the day that I finally sat on the rower and was like, oh my gosh, I can sit and I don't feel the tumor or feel that weird pain in my leg, it's gone. That's kind of when I knew, okay, I can start putting myself back into just very slow moving things. And again, like my support of my family, friends, everybody has been amazing. I've good, from my coaches at my gym have been amazing. Like I've reached out to them and initially when I said, I'm going to start doing some things just at home because of course with COVID,
Sure.
our gyms here in Florida's been kind of open most of for this whole thing.
Yeah.
So we're like our own thing.
Sure.
But our gym had to close for a little bit and but it opened back up. But I said, I'm just not going to come in yet until I feel comfortable enough with my own strength to be back in there. But my good friend, she sent me some things to do in the garage with, bands. And my daughter who competes, we've got all her stuff. So I'm using her kid bar, all of her lower weight dumbbells and things. But hey, scaling ain't failing at this point. I just was
Yeah.
happy to be back touching a dumbbell and a kettlebell and using a 12-pound
Awesome.
bar. I was thrilled. So I did that for a couple weeks and then I just was like, I need to be back at the gym. I need my people around me. I need to hear the noise of the gym, even
That's
if,
therapy. Yeah.
yeah, it is. And so I initially started working outside, but I could still see and hear everybody. And I just wave hello and do my thing for a little bit and then just slowly ventured back into the gym. And then that's where I'm
Yeah.
at this point. So,
Oh, that's so cool. Sounds like you had a lot of friends and family support and
yeah.
yeah, and
From
I don't know if I think you've mentioned in a pre-call they did something for you got for you.
Yeah, we've had a few things happen. I mean, it was amazing. I had no idea. Everyone once the word got out, we started because we kind of kept it very quiet until we had total confirmation what's where state what I am, what I have, what I'm dealing with, more for my kids because I wanted their life to not change as much as we could avoid that because just knowing what my husband had gone through as a kid, he was a little older, but still it affects you. And so once we knew everything, I reached out to just the neighbors with all the kids that they play with. And I just was like, hey, here's what's going on with me. It's why you haven't seen me in a while. Um, just keep an eye on them if they're at your house playing, if they seem down or, whatever, just let us know because we want to make sure we're talking with them. And, if we had to think about therapy for them or anything like that, we really wanted to keep on top of their mental health going through this
Of
whole
course.
process. Plus, you have all the COVID nonsense, and it was just so much to take in at once. Um, so started reaching out. So everyone's, now I'm getting all the text messages and oh my gosh, I can't believe it. How is this possible? La la la. And then my daughter one night was like, in CrossFit, we have all the hero wads that we do for, fallen soldiers, or even if they're still alive, like for things that they've done for us, all the different hero wads. So she's like, we should do something for colon cancer. And I said, yeah, that'd be really cool. So my husband and her were looking online to see if one was created, and there wasn't. I don't believe they found anything. So the next thing I knew, the owner of our gym, Amber and Sophia, went and had dinner together, and her and Sophia wrote up, like, my daughter is like the next Dave Castro when it comes to writing a workout. It's rough. She kills you. So they came up with a workout, and all the numbers correlated to like my birthday, the stage I was at, the year, like, everything to broad awareness for colon cancer. And then I found out that they picked a day to do it, and I didn't know that they had wrote it. So that was really exciting. And then they also did a raffle to raffle off really cool items for other people. So I had gyms from local gyms around putting in for the raffle, and they ended up giving the donations to us from the raffle. So that was really cool. So I thankfully felt good enough that day to go and watch everybody do the workout in my honor, even though
That's
I was
awesome.
sitting there and I'm like, I really want to participate in this, but I can't
Right,
right
right, yeah.
now. And I
I'm
had a
sure.
lot of gyms from around the United States contact me saying that they want to do the workout. So we had some local ones here in Tampa, some in Orlando. We had some gyms in California, Kentucky, all doing the workout on the same day, which was really super cool. Um, then our hockey family, they put together, which I had no idea. Again, one of the families, they all orchestrated a couple of the teams to do something called the Ewing Cup. And they had jerseys made for all the kids. And since my favorite color is
That's awesome.
purple, they had purple and white. Um, and they all had the logo, the Ewing Cup. And it was all in honor of me and our family. And so they had like a fun scrimmage for all the kids, and all the boys had their jerseys on, and it was
Very
super
cool.
cute. And then they gave me a jersey with all the boys signing it. And
Ah,
so that was really cool. And we kept telling people, like, we don't want donation. We just want the awareness, like putting it out
right.
there, get screened,
Yeah.
all these things. But they raised money for us, and we were shocked, and it was super amazing. And then we had good friends from a neighbor that we had lived a couple years ago, and we obviously keep in touch with them. And she created a 5K in my name to do over Thanksgiving. Since of COVID, we couldn't do like the turkey trots and things that we always would do. And then this year, I wasn't going to be able to do any of those just because I couldn't. So she created a 5K, and it ended up raising over $10,000. And we had people from other countries participating, and everyone, the hashtag was Team Sarah. And so, I mean, it was so cool to see all the different people from all over the world walking, running, or whatever on Thanksgiving morning, and just again bringing the awareness of colorectal cancer.
Awesome. That's
Yeah,
so
so
cool.
a lot of, and then my school family, all my teacher friends, one of my best friends organized like a bracelet, because again, my favorite color is purple, and then with the blue for the colon cancer, she did the Pura Vida. You can do charitable bracelets and stuff for whatever you want. So she
Yeah,
created a
sure.
bracelet in my name, and then everybody at school. And then she also made another one called Team Sarah. And so people all over were buying those. And so it's been really cool getting it out there in the open of, don't wait till 50 and get screened if you
Right.
have
That's so
family
important. Yeah.
members. And so it's been really cool to have all these different platforms, and just the CrossFit platform in general. I mean, my husband ended up emailing a few people. Tommy Marquez has a podcast, The Morning Chalk Up, and they all shared my story, my daughter's workout that she
Wow.
wrote, and all these
Awesome.
things. So it was really cool to get it out
Uh,
there and just
yeah.
because I
That's so
never.
cool. You got your daughter involved in all that. That is just
Yeah,
so strong for her to do that.
yeah, it was
That's
really
amazing.
cool.
Amazing. So, what other coping mechanisms besides, the CrossFit that you try to, handle all this?
Um, really just, I mean, the whole silver lining of, having to go through this, having to take medical leave from work, it really just allowed me to, I need to put myself first at this point
Yeah.
for my kids, for my husband, for my family. That's what kind of pushes me to continue to just have to be positive about it. Um,
Yeah. That's so
I mean,
important.
if
Yeah.
I see it all the time when I go to treatment, the people that you can just tell have given up on life, just
Right.
or are just negative about having to be there and having to go through getting blood work all the time and getting treatment and woe is me. And you have that mentality. I mean, I don't know. I don't, I'm, I just, I avoid those thoughts.
Yeah.
I
No,
have my
that's
days.
good.
I have my
Sure. I mean,
cry
that's
out
that's what I was gonna
moments.
say. Yeah, everybody's got their bad days. You just gotta have more good days than bad days. But
Yeah. I
how
mean,
do you deal on those days that when you do have those dark days?
um,
How do you
I'm a
handle them?
napper. I love to nap.
Oh,
So for me, when I just need to escape whatever, sometimes just going and like just taking a nap and just I put on like meditation music and I just kind of sleep it off in a way. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
okay.
But
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, I mean, really just being around my kids and those types of things,
Yeah.
it's kind of what it is for me. I need to be the here for them.
Yeah. 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 Wow. All right. Oh, you talked about, that was pretty important. You talked about the doctors, right? I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
You talked about how they were like communicating with each other, right? So it's like
Yeah.
you had a team of patient centered care, and you don't see that in a lot of cancer clinics and hospitals. From my personal experience and from talking to others, but it sounded really good.
Yeah. I mean, never gone through stuff like this before. I've never had a surgery. So, I mean, for me, it's been the best experience so far. And just kind of talking to some other people through like the Facebook support groups and stuff. Um, I just assumed this is how it worked. But some people are like, I need another opinion. My doctor says this. And then I would reach out saying, well, have you do as a team, are they talking? And they're like, well, I don't think so. This person's at this building, this one's here. I mean, my surgeon and they work out like she works with them. They're not in the same building or anything, but she goes, these are my go-to people. This is who I work with. So if you're going to work with me, here's typically who I will recommend and who I will work with. And for me, I was like, okay, that's less people I have to look for because I don't know anything like an oncologist. I don't know a radiation oncologist, so it was
Yeah.
nice for me to be like, okay, if you trust these people, my friend Mike, who got me to you, trusts you. So I felt very at ease and comfortable with everybody. And um, my radiation oncologist and my oncologist, they're all at the Florida Cancer Specialist. So I can see them any point in time I need to. But yeah, it's been amazing knowing once scans come in, they all look at them, they all talk about it, and then talk to me as far as we want to go ahead and just continue treatment since everything is responding well, this, that. So knowing they've already talked, I don't feel like I have to then reach out to them, be like, did you see my scans? What do you think? What's your opinion? Like, I already know that that's been handled and it's been done. And so it's a lot of peace of mind with that for sure.
Yeah. No, definitely. All right. So I just have one more question. And I know that you're staying strong through all this and through the chemo and how does that how does that affect you when maybe even on a day that you're feeling nauseous, you're not feeling that great, but it's still a day that you may go out, shopping or go to the gym. And and people are like, man, you're going through this, but you look like it's nothing. And and I know it's not true. We're going through hell inside, and it's a fight, and it's been a fight, for you, from the beginning, mentally, and for you to stay so strong, does not mean that you weren't, fighting tooth and nail for your life and for positivity, because it's so easy to get in that rut, and negative. But how does that, make you feel when somebody, might say, hey, you look great?
I mean, it makes me feel good because
I know they mean well.
no, knowing there's days where I'll come in after treatment and a couple people are like, "Oh, you look really tired today," or, this or that, and I'm like, "Well, I mean, I'm kind of always tired, but that's a given being a mom, being a teacher,
Yeah.
being whatever." Like, I feel like that fatigue feeling is no different. Um, the days that people say, "Oh, you look really good," and I'm like, "Okay, good. I actually look healthy. Like, I look good today, not
Yeah.
half asleep," or like yesterday being at the gym, coming off treatment, that causes stomach issues sometimes, just like constipation-y, like bloaty issues, just because sometimes
Sure.
I haven't gone to the bathroom as much those days that I'm on treatment. But to me, it's like, I'm here, just going to push through this because it's what helps me get through those feelings to not kind of be like, ugh, I have to feel like this again today. Great. And all
Right.
depressed about it. But again, I mean, I do it for my kids. To me, it's like I need them to see that even if I don't feel good, I'm still making that effort and time for me to continue to be strong, to continue to be healthy, because I know ultimately when I do have to have surgeries, this is going to come back to help me when it comes for recovery. And so, I mean, I do okay with it. I guess I just at this point I've really learned to just let things go.
Yeah.
It
Yeah. No, that's
I have
important.
like an OCD thing with like cleaning and this and that, and I literally had to just figure it out like ripping a Band-Aid off that it's okay if your house is just going to be dirty for a while, or
Yeah.
you know, I
Yeah.
didn't have a choice in that matter. And so I've learned to just let things go. But my gym's kind of like my second home. That's my other
Oh, that sounds
family
so cool.
from my
Yeah.
family. And people are like, "You're so motivating. I can't you're such an inspiration being here." And I love hearing that because I want to push others to better themselves, regardless of your medical situation or whatever it might be. So it makes me feel good to know that I'm helping someone in some way, shape, or form, even though I'm really not doing anything. I'm just going into the gym for myself. But I know
Right.
that other people are looking at it in a different way. Like to them, they're like, "I can't believe you're here. You just had your pump taken off, or you just had treatment and you're here." And I'm going, "Yeah, I sat in a chair for 3 hours. I need to move. Like I can't, I don't want to just
Yeah.
go home and take a nap and sit more. I need to do something."
Yeah, I mean, it's so important for people to see that, and especially see that in you, because not necessarily cancer, but they might be, going through a different, adversity,
Mhm.
and and try, and it's the same thing, if you're going through another life struggle, you got to stay positive, and stay strong, and seeing you go through this with your own, life struggle is definitely inspiring. So
Yeah, and I
yeah,
think the way
absolutely.
media and portrays cancer patients, I've had this conversation with many people. They're like, "You don't
Yeah.
have the yellow skin, or you don't look sickly and what we see on TV." And I'm like, "Well,
Yeah.
I mean," I said, "there are days I'm sure I probably look more sickly than others, or,
Right.
colorectal cancer treatment is not as aggressive as some like breast cancer treatments or
Yeah.
leukemia
Because
treatment."
I mean, there are people that are just lost so much. I mean, they're just skin
Yeah.
and bones and so sick, and I feel bad for them. But yeah, I mean it. But there's all kinds of images of us, of everybody going through cancer.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Is there anything else you want to add? I think I'm all set with my
Um,
questions.
I just like I tell people, get screened, especially if you know you have anything in your family. Um, I've helped a few friends get in touch with my friend Mike from the gym, because with him being a GI doctor, they've had
Yeah.
lots of questions. They're like, if you have this problem, oh my God, I need to get in. So I if
Yeah.
you notice any weird things with your bowels or any kind of blood, go get checked. Like, I wouldn't even wait. It's worth if some people financially, I have to pay my deductible or this. I mean, to me, it's peace of mind. It's worth it.
Yeah, and it's so many times I've heard the same story, like oh, take a Miralax or take a stomach pill. I'm sure it's this or gastritis or just something else, and they're just miserable. And some, luckily you advocated for yourself and you didn't, wait. But I've heard people, just putting up with the symptoms and taking the medication that the doctor told them to do for like 6 months, 8 months, a year. And then to the point where, well, they're in the ER and then they get scanned. They're like, oh crap, you got cancer. So yeah, get that. Any kind of symptoms in the beginning, yeah, go get screened. I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean,
colonoscopy is really not a big deal
it no,
to get it
the
done.
worst part of it's just the day before all the
Yeah,
prep. It's
the
not
prep.
fun,
Yeah,
but
yeah. But it's just a few hours next to the bathroom. I mean, I've had so many over 10 years. So it's not that big of a
yeah, I
deal.
mean, if this cancer is caught quick enough, I mean, it's
Yeah.
the most treatable,
You'd
yet
rather go through the
curable.
prep than going through cancer. 100%.
Yep. I mean, if you find, I mean, thankfully, colorectal cancer is the most curable, if not treatable cancer at this point, but sooner you can catch it, the
Yeah, if you can catch it
better.
early, yeah, because that's the thing with this is sometimes the symptoms are, it already met, at the
Mm.
stage 4 by the time you got a symptom or you got something going on. But yeah. All right. I just wanted to say thank you so much for your time. I mean, you're definitely an inspiration. I'll throw up your Instagram
Yeah.
up so people know and they can, follow your journey. It's amazing. And, in the future, I'd love to have you back on and continue your story.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That would be great. So, all right. Well, thank you so much.
All
And
right.
we'll see the rest of you guys on the next podcast. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
From the Cancer Suck Studios, that is a wrap. Check us out in future episodes of our podcast and be sure to subscribe. But before we go, just want to give a shout out to all the admirable and devoted caregivers out there. Until next time, stay strong. We got this.
Because every once in a while, the lion has to show the jackals